Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe Carmack, and in this video we're going to be talking about as is. What does that phrase even mean? Great question. That's what we're going to be talking about right now. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, I have to give you the disclosure with as is. This can be a big liability for legal reasons. So if you are looking at buying a home as is, of course I have to recommend you speak with an attorney, get some legal counsel, and nothing I can say should be taken as legal advice. I am merely a realtor in the state of Minnesota. So also if you live in any other states, you'll have to check with a realtor in those areas, and I can connect you with somebody that we've got within our network that'll work really well for you. Let's get into it. First of all, in the state of Minnesota, a seller has really three main options under state statute 513. First of all, a full property disclosure statement, which is a whole packet of information. There's about 400 questions that our Realtor Association form gives them to disclose about their home. It asks them all kinds of questions. Have you had any roof problems? Have you had any insurance claim? Have you had any work done on the property? How's the stove? How's the fridge? How's, all the different parts of your home? And it asks them essentially everything about the property. And then of course it puts in there, is there any other issues that the buyer should be aware of that might affect their use and enjoyment of the property, okay? So option one is filling out that form. The seller has to provide that to the buyer to do a full exhaustive disclosure statement to the buyers, okay? Now, little caveat, the seller doesn't have to know everything that could be wrong with their home, right? If there's a little bit of mold in the basement from a water leak they didn't even know existed, they can't really be held responsible for fixing something they're not aware of, or for disclosing all of the issues and ensuring that the fridge works perfectly forever. That's not their obligation. The obligation really is that the seller, if they know of an issue, they have to disclose it under that first option, okay? Option number two is that they effectively skip doing that entire disclosure, but instead they provide a home inspector's report in lieu of their full disclosure. So it's called a qualified third-party inspection report. Typically we'll call out one of our inspectors. They'll go through the home. They'll put together a full report with 10, 15, 20 pages, dozens of photos, explanations of anything they've found that could be an issue. Okay, so that's option two, is providing that report to the buyers. Sellers are saying, look, we're disclosing all of this. If the sellers know of anything that's a discrepancy with that report, they have to clarify, they forgot to mention this, or there's also that issue we had in the past, or something like that. But it's really just getting a third party's report instead. That can be effective, especially if I'm working with an elderly seller. They, maybe they might have forgotten something, if there's some dementia or something like this, or they're just forgetful. That'll kind of help to make sure the buyer knows of any issues like that, but also doesn't put the seller entirely on the hook if they forgot to mention something, just honestly out of on an accident, unintentionally omitting something. That's a good happy medium, okay? So those are your first two options. In this video, of course, we're talking about what is as is. Well, as is essentially is that third option, and that is a waiver of disclosure. So the seller isn't filling out the report telling you everything about their home. They're not providing you a report. They're not doing anything. They're just saying whatever the home is, it is, and you're taking it like it is. Under state statute, the seller and the buyer both have to agree to this type of disclosure, or lack thereof, just waiving disclosure altogether. And when you see, if you're looking in the MLS, or if you're looking on the public sites and it says home sold as is, that's generally what they're referring to, is the seller's not making any warrants about anything about the condition of the property. They're not disclosing if there was past issues. In most cases, it's usually like an investment property. Maybe it was a rental, or the person just bought it to flip it, remodel it, and then they're gonna resell it. The reason, for the most part, the reason we'll do that is because the seller really probably doesn't know every issue that the home might have had in the past, right? And from a seller standpoint, it's a little bit more liability. If they did a full disclosure and they didn't know something or forgot something, then the buyer potentially could come back and try and accuse them of something later and say, hey, you knew the stove was junk, or you knew there was a water leak from the roof and you didn't tell us about it. Then obviously it gets really messy, and the sellers have some obligation potentially of having to fix that after closing. So sellers don't want that, obviously, okay? So the as is, when they don't know everything that could be wrong with the property or they don't feel comfortable with it, that's when we'll do a waiver. Again, especially with someone with dementia, for example, I might just do a full as is waiver and just say the seller really can't in good faith do a full disclosure, so we'll sell it as is, okay? So that's generally what that means. It's also super important though that you understand what as is not. As is doesn't mean if a seller just says, you know what, I'm not fixing anything. I don't want to deal with anything. If you find an issue at your inspection buyer, it's on you, right? That's not the same thing as selling as is. That may just be you just not wanting to do anything as a seller, and I can respect that too. But there needs to be a little distinction. I have had sellers come back and say, well, hey, Joe, I just want to sell it as is. Well, if you're doing a full disclosure, you're not selling it as is, you're disclosing everything. If the buyer's aware of something, or if something comes up and you said the stove was working fine, they go to their final walkthrough and the stove was not working. Obviously there's some issues there because you sold the home with the understanding that it was working and then it stopped working. So that's how it works. Just because you don't want to deal with an issue at inspection or at closing, before closing, isn't the same thing as truly selling your home as is. Now, if you're on the buy side, here's what you really need to know about an as-is sale. And of course, this is where you need to consult with an attorney if you have any questions. I can't give you that advice. But when you accept purchasing a home as is, it can mean that any issues that come up down the road, they're on you. You know, you're gonna have a real tough time going after the seller to say, hey, my roof is leaking and I think you knew about it and you need to come fix my roof because you hid that from me, right? When you accept as is, you know, they very well may have known about a roof issue they didn't tell you about, but they have very little liability to do anything about it because you chose to purchase it as is. So that kind of begs the question, well, why would anyone buy a home as is if there could be an issue down the road that would bite them in the butt, right? Well, the reason is because you can usually get as is homes at a discount. Not always, but you know, especially like a foreclosure, right? That's always sold just as is, the bank doesn't know anything. So if you're buying a foreclosure, it's sold as is, so you're assuming the risk of issue down the road, but you're also getting it at a really great price, typically. So that's one good reason. Another reason is the home actually may have been completely remodeled, super well done, flipped, and the sellers can't really do a full disclosure or wouldn't normally be recommended to do a full disclosure because they haven't owned the property for a while and there's a lot more liability to them. So it does not mean that the seller's trying to hide anything. It just means they can't in good faith disclose everything about the home because they don't know it or they haven't lived there. Or maybe they've rented it out. Not necessarily a bad thing that a home is being sold as is, and it's also if you're selling your home and you don't want to do anything, that doesn't mean it is in fact as is. So it's a little bit nuanced, but you just have to know what you're looking into. Generally speaking, the bottom line is if you're a buyer and you're buying a home as is, you just need to understand that you need to be a little more diligent about inspecting the home beforehand, or you need to have the financial numbers to be able to take on more risk. So you're either getting the home at a better price knowing that you'll have to fix issues, or you've really just got the cash in the bank so that if something should come up, you can handle taking care of it yourself. Haley and I have actually bought all 3 of our homes that we've owned, have all been as-is purchases, and it's worked out very, very well for us. Someone else who is not handy or who has very little cash to deal with those sorts of things needs to be a lot more cautious about buying as is. If you're gonna be crippled, if you gotta replace the stove or something, then it may not be a good idea for you to buy as is. That's just a general overview of buying a home as is. I've got a whole bunch of other great videos just like this, so you're gonna wanna subscribe to my channel, click the little bell for notifications, and then also check this new video out right here. Okay, thanks so much, have a great day.